Welcome, Lincoln Lawyer. Nice to see you again. Thanks for stopping by. Have a seat, relax, have a drink. Today, interesting topic of discussion. We're going to talk about Rudy fucking Giuliani, all right? So why are we going to talk about Rudy? Well, shit, I just find the guy interesting, okay? I've been around his name for 30 years. I remember when my family immigrated from the former Soviet bloc to New York City. Rudy actually started his campaign for mayor around 1990, and he was actually visiting the building next door to me. I think it was a church or a synagogue. So he was actually making a campaign stop there. So that was my introduction to Rudy. He won, of course, afterwards. So anyway, Rudy's still on the television. He's still in the news. He's still making the rounds. He's talking about all kinds of investigations. He's been to Ukraine, all kinds of documents and witnesses he's presenting. And I was just curious, well, the media is trying to make him out to be this nut job. He's off the reservation. He's a liability. Is he full of shit? Is he just making shit up? Or does he have some credibility? Is he actually, does he have a history of making up statements, of making up facts, of distortions, of lies, of various nefarious activity? I mean, he's been a lawyer for almost 50 years now. So I was thinking, let's take a look at what he's done, what he's been through, so we can maybe judge his veracity. We can think about whether we should actually pay attention to what he has to say or not. Okay, so I'm going to talk about what I find interesting. Basically, like if you go look at Viva Fry's channel, shit like that, I don't need a weird looking fucking Canadian lawyer screaming at me for 20 minutes. There's like no legal analysis there. It's not something I find interesting or informational. I don't really like watching that. Anybody can do that channel. I really, don't like watching that kind of thing. It's basically political aggregation of news. So I'm going to be doing more legal related stuff, actual legal law stuff. All right. So bear with me. Anyway, Rudy Giuliani. Did you know he started as a Democrat in the 70s? That was an interesting fact. I was quite interested to discover he voted for George McGovern, in fact. Same as Hillary. Go figure, right? 1972. Then after law school, he went to clerk for a judge in New York. He went to NYU, and then he joined the Ford administration. He became an independent. He became Associate Deputy Attorney General, pretty high position. I assume he made some contacts in law school and through his clerkship. And after that, he went into private practice, and then he converted to Republican. And then he went to work for Reagan in about 1980, I believe. And so he was the Deputy Attorney General. That's third highest position in the Justice Department. All right? That's pretty high. So 3 years later, interestingly enough, he steps down and he takes a position as a district attorney for SDNY, Southern District of New York, the most powerful district in the country. And he did that because he wanted to litigate cases. He wanted to be in court. I guess he was bored pushing papers. He wanted to do something interesting, more interesting anyway. So basically, what did he do that was so outstanding in SDNY? Well, he went after Wall Street. That was one of his main trademarks. Okay, so you thought Elliot Spitzer in New York was the Wall Street killer, the hunter. But in fact, Rudy did it earlier and better. Rudy convicted dozens of Wall Street folks. He really went after them. And for some reason, people think that Wall Street owns Republicans, which is total bullshit. Okay, since Rudy convicted, he went after Ivan Boesky and Michael Milken, very well-known cases. So a couple of, raiders, tycoons, whatever you might call them, they had unlimited funds to fight, okay? He convicted him, he put him in jail, they both served a couple of years. He went after dozens of other people. Insider trading, securities law violations. It was actually rare that securities laws were enforced by the SEC at that time, for some reason. And after Rudy, they were more enforced. Interesting. So it was like the Wild West before Rudy until he went after them. They were doing whatever they wanted, okay? And if you watch the movie Wall Street, in fact, one of those last scenes where Charlie Sheen's character is arrested and led through the brokerage floor crying in tears, that actually happened. So Rudy pioneered that perp walk, Okay, he arrested people in public places at their place of work, and then he would march them through with the media watching, sort of as a deterrent. Now, as a tactic, okay, that may have been excessive. There's definitely an argument to be made, opposing argument, all right? So, I'm not denying that. Arrest is an arrest. It is a charge. It is not a conviction. So the person is presumed guilty, but you're still kind of shaming them into destruction, all right, destroying their reputation publicly. But Rudy did that, and a lot of prosecutors took over, and they kept doing that also, and it's regularly done today. And basically, he really wanted to intimidate Wall Street when he was doing that kind of thing, okay? So he convicted a whole bunch of people. Then he went after the mafia. That was an even higher level criminality, okay? This was murderers. I'm talking about killers, murderers, organized crime. They were doing everything, okay? And he did this at great risk to his own life and limb, okay? So the Mafia Commission trial, where there was about a dozen heads of the 5 families that were put on trial, and all were convicted, all were jailed for life. And this is where Paul Castellano was tried, and he never went through trial because he was assassinated by John Gotti outside of the steakhouse. Everybody knows this. It's a famous event. So this was the time when Rudy was prosecuting everybody, okay? So he got a lot of mafia convictions. He went after them hard. He broke the mafia's back, in fact, in New York. They never came back to full strength after that. So because he pioneered the use of RICO, Racketeering Influenced Corrupt Organizations Act, where you didn't actually have to prove any criminal activity by the boss, the mafia head. You really just had to prove that he was the head, he was the boss, he was the manager, he was giving orders. And that was it. And so that was enough. And he went after the mafia, and he really destroyed them. And then after that, the RICO Act kept being used, etc. And he did that again to great risk to life and limb, to himself and his family. The mafia did vote whether to put a hit out on him, and they did reject that idea by a very narrow margin. And in fact, it later came out that the Sicilian mafia that was run by Toto Riina at the time, who was an absolute beast, a monster, a murderer, genocidal maniac, and he killed women, children, families. He blew up the mafia prosecutor in Italy. It was pretty much all out war, very bloody back then. You can look this up, this is well known. And he actually put out a hit on Rudy, $800K. And obviously it was never carried out because he had no support in the US, but that hit was there. Okay, and who knows, it could have been carried out. It could have been, his offices could have been bombed, his house could have been bombed, his family could have been attacked. So there was very significant risk to himself by taking on that particular group of people, that they were absolute murderers. They didn't care, it was nothing to have somebody killed. So that was a very significant event where he really showed his backbone, okay? So he became a fearless crime fighter, all right? That's the kind of reputation that he had. Then he went into politics, he became mayor, and during 9/11, etc. So I'm not going to go into that. I'm just doing his lawyering history right now. So basically, today he's on the news. He's done a lot of investigations. He's talking about Ukraine and the dealings of the Bidens in Ukraine and the various money laundering and the bribery. And so I'm wondering, based on Rudy's history and the lack of adverse history that he doesn't have, he's very reputable as incorruptible and honest. So I don't see anything in his history that would show him to be dishonest, crooked, criminal, etc., nefarious. So I'm going to personally pay attention to what he has to say. I'm going to look at the evidence, and I'll probably make more videos regarding the evidence that he has produced, the witnesses, their veracity, their credibility, what the evidence looks like, how strong it is. I really am curious to know what Joe Biden was doing with the foreign policy, and how his family was profiting from the foreign aid that was going from here to there. So, and how he was leveraging his position. Okay, so I'm just curious to find out if there's significant evidence to that effect. Okay, so I think that's about it on that point. Let me know if you have any questions. Let's talk. You want to disagree? You think Rudy is a scumbag, a liar? Okay, that's fine. Let me know. I'm cool with that. But meanwhile, hope you're having a fabulous day and stay out of court. Peace out.